Hello, this is Hwan San Snim, and welcome to our program. As many of our viewers know, I have been acting and working as the Dharma Guidance Master at a number of universities in Seoul for the past 5 years. And recently, one of my old students gave me a call. She had graduated several years ago and gotten a job coming right out of college. And then she found that she was not satisfied with her job, and so she began to work to find another job, and I lost touch with her. And I was very happy to hear that in that time that I wasn't communicating with her, she had gotten another job. And when I congratulated her, I was surprised to hear her say that she was not happy. And so I asked her if there was something wrong with her job, and she said, no, the job was fine, but she just didn't feel proud of herself. And this surprised and disturbed me quite a bit because I know that she had worked very hard to do the things that she had done. And yet at the end of it, she could feel no pride in her achievement. And she told me that all she felt was a vague sense of guilt and shame. And so that raised a question in my mind, which will be the topic for today's program. Why is it that so many people today find it so difficult to give themselves love, respect, and affection? How is it that we can come to truly love ourselves? So the question once again is, how can we as modern people learn to love ourselves in a way that's both authentic and realistic? I think we all know that our modern society and culture places tremendous value on individual excellence, individual performance, individual accomplishment, and individual talent. And in this kind of social and cultural environment, most of us, as we grow up, especially in young adulthood, feel a tremendous pressure to prove that we're extraordinary in all respects. We want to prove that we are extraordinarily intelligent, hardworking, successful. We want to show that we make a lot of money. We want the respect of our peers. Not only that, we want to show that we're extraordinarily attractive as people, that we're charming and interesting. And beyond that, we even want to prove that we are good people, conscientious and responsible. These are extremely high and difficult standards to achieve. And when we're unable to achieve these standards, it's only understandable then that we feel bad about ourselves. And if we continue to be unable to achieve these standards for more than a few times, if this begins to happen over and over again, we begin to feel bad about ourselves. We may even begin to dislike ourselves, to lose respect for ourselves, even to dismiss ourselves. And if this continues for too long, then worst of all, we may begin to develop self-loathing and even self-hatred. Now, both Sun Master Songdam and the Sun Buddhist tradition that he represents teach that, in fact, every single human being who has ever lived, who lives now, and who will ever live, we all possess within ourselves something infinitely beautiful and even sacred. And of course, I think many of our viewers, if you're familiar with Buddhist teachings, will know that Buddhism teaches this. But we can ask ourselves the question, authentically and honestly, can this really be so? In all these years and decades that I've been alive, have I somehow failed to see or understand or discover something really great within myself? Why don't we listen to Sun Master Songdam as he teaches us more about this in his Dharma speech? Now, before we watch his Dharma speech together, I would like to provide a few explanatory notes. In the Dharma speech excerpt that we're about to see together now, he makes reference to the so-called Avatamsaka Sutra. And this is one of the most influential Mahayana sutras or scriptures in East Asian Buddhism. The Avatamsaka Sutra famously describes cosmic reality as an infinite multiverse in which all of the universes and worlds and realms of existence and even individual beings all contain one another as well as are contained within one another. And what's also distinctive about this sutra is that it venerates Vairochana Buddha, who is the so-called cosmic Buddha, who is considered the embodiment of universal truth. And Vairochana Buddha is most associated with what's in Sanskrit called the Dharmakaya. And this is usually translated as the Dharma body or the body of truth, the cosmic principle and source of all forms of existence. And all things in reality are considered a manifestation and an expression of this Dharmakaya of the Vairochana Buddha. So let me ask all of you now to assume proper meditation posture. So straighten your backs, tuck in your chin, take the tip of your tongue and press it lightly against the roof of your mouth. Align the tip of your nose directly above your belly button. And then let's together enter into Dantian breathing. And as we conduct Dantian breathing, engage the Imoko Hwadu, and let's practice sun meditation as we listen together to the Dharma speech of Sun Master Songdam.
자유 충천기 아니 일념회왕시장분이라나 막도 염화 소식다나라 우여산조 갱상혼이라나 사람마다 하늘을 찌르는 기상이 있다 하는 것은 남녀노소와 빈부귀천을 막론하고 모든 사람이 각기 사람마다 하늘을 찌르는 기상이 있어. 왜 그러냐 하면은 현재 우리는 모양도 다르고 성격도 다르고 모든 상황이 다르게 이렇게 살아가고 있지만은 저 근본을 거슬러 올라가서 본다면 비로자나 법신불과 똑같은 존재였었다 그 말. 그래서 화엄경에 말씀하시기를 삼계의 유일심이요 심의 무별법이다. 삼계가 오직 한 마음이요 마음 밖에는 다른 법이 없다. 심불급중생이요 마음과 부처와 중생이 시삼무차별이다. 이 세 가지가 차별이 없다. 이렇게 화엄경에는 말씀하셨습니다. 원래 그 자리는 중생도 없고 부처도 없고 원래는 청정법신 비로자나부르 그 상태였었기 때문에 이 중생이나 마음이나 부처가 다 하나였었다. 그렇기 때문에 현재 우리가 몇 무량겁을 지내오는 동안에 가진 업을 짓고 인연을 따라서 오늘날에는 이렇게 보다 각기 다른 모습으로 다른 상황에 놓여 있지만은 그 근본을 거슬러 올라가면 똑같은 부처님이요 법신이기 때문에 다 같은 하늘을 찌르는 기상이 있다 이것입니다. 그래서 일념회광시장부다. 한 생각을 탁 빛을 돌이키면 바로 부처님과 똑같은 대장부다 이것입니다.
So before we consider what Sun Master Songdam has shared with us, let's first consider the ways in which we habitually try to give ourselves love, respect, and affection. Now, our modern educational system teaches us how to learn and understand the world, but it never teaches us how to learn and understand ourselves, who we really are, what is the nature of our existence, what is the purpose of our life. Similarly, all of the occupational and employment training that we receive after school when we get jobs teaches us how to operate certain kinds of technological systems and oversee our tasks and responsibilities. But our job training never teaches us how to operate our own minds and bodies, how to oversee and regulate our own thoughts, feelings, speech, and action. So even though we all want to give ourselves respect, affection, and love, we've never been taught how. And that's the important thing to consider here, that self-love is not something that just happens naturally. It may be that it's actually a skill. Now, psychologists have known for a long time that in order to be mentally and physically healthy, and in order to function properly and to live a happy and healthy life, we all need to have self-esteem, self-respect, and self-love. But because we've never been trained how to do this in a specific and concrete way, most of us modern people use what I think, and I think you'll agree, what seems to be a dysfunctional way of finding a way to love ourselves. In this culture that so adores and worships and idolizes individual achievement, individual originality and uniqueness, when we want to find something to love in ourselves, we instinctively look for something that is special. I think that this is what very many, if not most, modern people do. We look for something within us, something that we have that is different and somehow better than others. We feel that we must be special in order to deserve love and respect and affection, even from ourselves. Now, if we think this way, and if we approach ourselves in this way, there are pretty disturbing consequences of this approach to self-love. First of all, when we look for something special within ourselves, when we assume that we must have something special within ourselves to be able to respect and love ourselves and hold ourselves in esteem, what we are implying, whether we realize it or not, is that the so-called average person is not worthy of respect, is not worth giving love to, and can be dismissed. And when we assume something like this, we also end up assuming that of all the people in the world, only the special few really deserve love, respect, and affection. And the rest of us kind of don't. And when we think along those lines, suddenly love, respect, affection, high regard, all of these things become scarce resources that we have to compete for. We feel that we must prove ourselves worthy of these kinds of things, this kind of respect and love and affection. And so instinctively, often, we take a hostile and competitive attitude toward our fellow human beings. We don't want to be a nobody. We want to be a special somebody. We don't want to be part of the crowd. We want to be the one that stands out in the crowd. The crowd is not worthy, and I'm afraid that I may end up just being one of the crowd if I don't prove myself better than my fellow human beings. And perhaps the saddest thing about looking for something special in ourselves to love is that when we think that way, we inherently assume that what we hold in common with our fellow human beings, the thing that really connects us to one another, this is not worthy of respect, this is not worthy of love, this is not even worth our attention. What's dangerous, I believe, in looking for something special within yourself to love, in trying to become someone special, is that there is a hidden will, a hidden intention to be dominant, to dominate others, a will to dominance. When we want to become special, what we really want is to put everyone below us. And because of this hidden, let's call it aggression or competitiveness within our desire to be special, this may encourage us to, or at least permit us to be unkind to our fellow human beings. Worse than that is that when we try to be special, when we try to find something special in ourselves, whether we realize it or not, we become unkind to ourselves. We're saying to ourselves often that the way that I am now is not deserving of respect, is not deserving of love. I have to change from the way that I am now. The way that I am now is unworthy. And if somehow I find myself, if I find something special in myself, then what ends up happening is that I only value that one thing. This one thing that I'm good at, this one thing that makes me stand out, that's unusual about me, that I hang all of my self-respect and self-esteem on that, and the rest of me kind of doesn't count. The danger with this kind of thinking is that we mistake loving what we have for loving who we are. We begin to become attached to, take pride in, and form vanity around things that we may own, like wealth and positions, or attributes that we may have, like a certain kind of intelligence or talent or physical appearance. There is a difference between loving your possessions and loving who you are, and we fail to notice this. The truth is, when we seek self-respect in something special about us, when we look for something special within ourselves, even when we think we find it, what it actually does more than anything else is reveal and expose our hidden self-esteem. The assumption is always, everything else about me is not worth respect except for this one thing. If I didn't have this one thing, I would not be worthy. There is a hidden low self-esteem that is constantly threatening us and putting pressure on us and creating anxiety within us. Now imagine what happens if you have an entire society and nation full of people who feel this way. What kind of society would we create under these circumstances if all of us chose to try to locate self-love in something special and unique within every single one of us? Well, we would get exactly the kind of society that we see today. Hyper-competitive, often hostile and aggressive to one another. Now, I'm not going to say that competition in and of itself is bad and wrong. I agree with most people that competition helps us to develop our abilities, to find our hidden talents, to take our talents and turn them into skills, to take our skills and turn them into craft, and then to take our craft and turn that into mastery. Competition is unquestionably indispensable for developing those kinds of hidden abilities. But I think there's a difference between healthy competition and unhealthy competition. In healthy competition, we're not competing to receive respect, we're only competing to prove our ability. Respect is inherently given to anyone who steps on the field of competition. We're just trying to see who has ability, who has remarkable ability. That's a whole different thing than competing to win respect and love from our fellow human beings and even from ourselves, I would like to suggest that that kind of competition is toxic, that it encourages us to be hostile and cruel not only to other people, but to ourselves. And what happens at the end of that kind of society-wide toxic competition? Well, we get a large number of people who feel that they are undeserving of respect and love, even from themselves, for things that have nothing to do with love and respect. They feel that they are undeserving of respect maybe because they didn't go to the right school, or they're not making the right amount of money, or they don't hold the right kind of position, or they don't look the right way. These kinds of things have nothing to do with whether we give or receive love and respect. And on the other hand, we end up with a population of people who maybe love themselves too much, who maybe are too proud of themselves, again, for things that really have nothing to do with giving or receiving love and respect. And yet these people will feel that they are superior to others. They will look at the world as a world of underlings. They will expect to be treated with unusual respect and care, and they will resent people who don't treat them in that way. They may even feel that the entire world is simply an audience to admire and acknowledge their greatness. So what we find is that we find a society that is increasingly filled with people who have either some kind of delusional narcissism or some kind of inferiority complex. And yet Sun Master Songdam tells us that if we could just turn what he calls the light of one thought around, direct it inward, we would discover that every single one of us, regardless of what kind of attributes or characteristics that we have, are in fact a manifestation and embodiment of none other than Vairochana Buddha. How can this teaching help us realistically in the modern world? Let's continue to meditate and listen to Sun Master Songdam's Dharma speech as we consider how we could apply this teaching to discover a new form of self-love.
일념회광시장부다. 한 생각을 탁 빛을 돌이키면 바로 부처님과 똑같은 대장부다 이것입니다. 우리는 그러한 자격이 있고 본바탕이 그러기 때문에 한 생각을 돌이키면 바로 대장부가 되고 이 세상에 아무것도 두려울 것이 없고 슬퍼할 것도 없고 원망할 것도 없다 이것입니다. 그 한 생각 돌이킨다고 하는 것은 우리가 원래 비로자나 법신불 상태에서 한 생각 어긋져서 거기서 미끄러져 나와가지고 삼계 육도 윤회를 이렇게 하고 있는데 한 생각만 탁 돌이키면 바로 근본의 대장부 경지로 일초즉입 열애지 할 수가 있기 때문에 그런 것입니다. 그 방법이 바로 참선법입니다. 참선법이라는 것은 언제 어디서 무엇을 하거나 간에 때와 장소를 가리지 않고 어떠한 상황에서도 한 생각을 탁 돌이켜서 화두를 들무로 해서 장부 경지로 올라가는 것이고 그러한 수행을 끊임없이 계속해 나가다 보면은 원래 자기가 비로자나 법신불이었다고 하는 것을 확실히 깨닫게 되는 것입니다. 팔만대장경에 그 많은 법문을 하셨지만은 그 많은 법문을 바로 이해하게 된다면은 바로 이 한 생각 돌이켜서 자기의 본성을 보고 본성을 깨닫고 법신불 경지에 들어가도록 하는 많은 중생의 근기에 따라서 그 방편을 설하신 것이기 때문에 법문을 옳게 알아듣는다면 하나도 어려울 것이 없고 복잡할 것이 없는 것입니다. 우리는 3000년이 되어서 정법 시대가 지나가고 상법 시대가 지나가고 지금은 말법 시대에 접어들어서 온 세상이 명예와 권리와 재산보다 그런 것을 서로 자기가 차지하려고 많은 사람들이 온 세계가 다투고 싸우고 그러고 있습니다마는 어리석은 중생들은 범주를 벗어나지 못하고 그리고 말세라 한탄하고 스스로를 전혀 그러한 위대한 존재라고 하는 것을 망각하고 이렇게 업보 중생의 신분으로 이렇게 살아가고 있는 것입니다. 어리석은 사람들이 비록 자기의 고향을 떠나서 부모도 없는 고아가 되어가지고 거지가 되어가지고 온갖 곳을 돌아다니면서 비렁뱅이 노릇을 하고 있지만 자기의 고향이 어디인 줄 알고 자기의 부모가 누군 줄 알아서 고향을 찾아가서 부모를 만난다면은 그 사람은 고아가 아니고 비렁뱅이가 아닌 것과 마찬가지인 것입니다. 참선법이라 하는 것은 비록 우리가 무량겁을 3계와 6도 윤회를 하고 있지만은 한 생각을 바로 돌이켜서 자기의 본성을 찾게 된다면은 우리는 언제나 자신이 부처님인 줄 깨닫게 되고 모든 눈으로 보고 듣고 만나는 모든 것이 바로 그것이 자기의 본 고향의 소식인 것을 알게 되는 것입니다. 비견 뒤에 산새들이 이런 소리로 울고 저런 소리로 울고 서로 이리 날아가고 저리 날아가고 하는 그러한 모습들이 바로 부처님께서 백만 대중 앞에서 연꽃을 들으니 가섭존자가 미소를 하셨습니다. 이것이 삼처전심의 하나입니다마는 그 소식이 3000년이 지냈으니까 끊어져 없어진 것이 아닙니다. 산에 가면 꽃이 피고 산새가 우는 그 속에 부처님의 삼처전심의 소식이 들어있기 때문에 그런 것입니다. 팔만대장경은 대단히 어려운 보다 공부라고 생각을 하겠습니다마는 자기 한 마음을 돌이켜서 본성을 찾게 되면 거기에 극락세계가 있고 거기에서 삼세제부를 칭견할 수 있다고 생각한다면 우리는 말세를 한탄할 것이 없고 우리가 중생이라고 포기할 일이 아닌 것입니다.
So in his Dharma speech, Sun Master Songdam tells us that every single one of us has a dignity that can pierce the sky. But we're unable to see our own inherent dignity because our mental gaze is directed outward to the external world, toward things like fame and power and all the distractions of the senses. But he tells us if we practice sun meditation, direct again the light of one thought, direct our mental gaze inward, and practice sun meditation very intensely and diligently, then we would become enlightened too. We would directly perceive the fact and truth that all of us are, in essence, Vairochana Buddha. Now, what does this mean for modern people? Does that mean that in order for me to find genuine self-love, I have to actually go out and get enlightened? Does that mean I have to quit my job and go live in a meditation hall? That's not the point of this program. What I'd like to suggest here is that we can find a more authentic way to love and respect ourselves through the practice of sun meditation. The practice of sun meditation itself will naturally lead us to discovering our own inherent dignity and finding a way to love and respect ourselves in an authentic way. Now, when we begin sun meditation, the first thing most of us discover as modern practitioners, as modern beginners, is that the posture is difficult to get adjusted to, the breathing is difficult to get adjusted to. And so the first thing that we really discover is that our own mind and body are difficult to regulate. But if we persevere and continue to direct our mental gaze inward toward its own source and observe all that is happening within our own mind and body, we begin to understand the nature, the conditions of the untrained human mind and body. We begin to look at our own body in a different way. Regardless of how attractive or unattractive you may think your external appearance is, in sun meditation, we discover once again that every human body is actually a kind of animal body. It shivers, it twitches, it sweats, it farts, it urinates, it defecates. It is truly an animal body, and this is the nature of our body, regardless of whether you think you're beautiful or ugly or whatever. And through sun meditation, we get a good look at the inside of our minds. And what we find in our minds, for most of us, is a stream of unregulated thought, emotion, voices, imagery. It's very, very chaotic in the mind of an untrained beginner, in the mind of the average human being. And so what we see is that it's a kind of madhouse in our mind. There's all these images going on at the same time. There's all these voices speaking in our head. And we begin to observe with some humor that, we're all a little bit crazy. It's kind of a madhouse inside of our heads. Now, many of us feel that this is somehow a sign that we're not doing well in our meditation practice. But I would like to suggest here that this is the first real step, the first real progress that we get to enjoy in sun meditation. We get to see how the human mind and body, regardless of who you are, regardless of whether you're special or not, we get to see how the real human body and mind actually operate. And this changes our perception of people. Even when we meet someone that we think is special in some way, we get to see now that no matter how they may look on the surface, they've still got the same animal body that I do. No matter how charming or intelligent or persuasive they may be, you look at their faces, their expressions, the movement of their eyes, and you see that, the inside of their head is just as chaotic as the inside of my head. Being special in some way does not change these facts. However, we continue to practice sun meditation. We continue to master the posture, the dantian breathing, the mental focus of raising doubt through the hwadu imoko. And we begin to see that with proper regulation, our human mind and body, again, regardless of whether it has any specific special attributes, our human mind and body are capable of producing luminous states of peace and quiet and clarity and bliss. We discover within our mind-body complex an entirely new universe, a universe that is just as infinite as the external universe, a universe that is elegant and subtle and nuanced and filled with beauty and light. And we make a very important discovery. We discover that with the human mind and body, we can attain to these very special life experiences, these experiences of luminosity, if we know how to regulate our mind and body through sun meditation. Normally, we use our body like in work, normally we use our body like a robot that performs our tasks. We use our mind like a computer to solve problems. And in our leisure time, we treat our mind and body like a toy to distract and amuse us. But these are not the purposes of the human mind and body. We discover something entirely new about ourselves when we realize that the human mind and body can be and is meant to be used as an instrument of enhanced perception and self-transformation. When we understand that and we enter into the depths of sun meditation, we begin to see within the depths of our own consciousness and of our own physical experience that there is something else, something which in his Dharma speech, Sun Master Songdam is calling Vairochana Buddha. There is something within us, and we discover that the oldest, most universal claims of all the religious traditions of the world may be true. That within the depths of this all-too-human mind and body, there may be something eternal and beautiful and precious and sacred. That we are more than just the sum of our parts. And then when we look at ourselves, we will know that even though this body may seem like an animal body at times, even though our mental abilities may seem very, very limited in understanding, nonetheless there is something else in there, deep within us, a kind of light that is shining forth that we can detect and experience and perceive in sun meditation. And this completely changes how we look not only at ourselves, but at all human beings and in fact all living beings. We no longer try to find a reason to love ourselves in something that we have, whether it's a material possession or whether it's some kind of attribute or characteristic. The basis of our self-love is no longer to be found in something that we consider special, in that which separates us from our fellow human beings. We find within ourselves something to love that we share with all other human beings and with all other living beings. We find that what we hold in common with all things in existence, this so-called Buddha nature, the body of truth, the Vairochana Buddha within us all, when we discover that and learn to love that, love who we are rather than what we have, this opens the door also to loving others. Through this proper and healthy way of self-love, we are able to extend our love and compassion to all human beings and all other living beings. When we meet someone on the street or in our daily lives, and we see something in them that seems superior, seems outstanding, seems special, in a way that maybe we think we're not, we no longer have to react with envy and shame, because we know that no matter what kind of talent or external appearance or possession or position that you may have, these are not the things that we ought to love and respect. These are simply things that we use in our community life with one another to run our society and to run our lives. They are convenient, yes. They are helpful, yes. If we don't have them, yes, it can be difficult and uncomfortable, but these are not issues directly connected to the problem of love and respect. And so we don't have to feel bad in front of them, and we don't have to be overly impressed by them either. On the other hand, when we meet people that we feel are behaving inappropriately, we feel that their behavior is poor, we don't have to react by despising them. We can see very clearly now, through our sun meditative practice, that they, more than anything else, they have failed to see what's truly beautiful and precious and sacred within themselves, and so they are reacting and acting with rage and fear and anxiety and loneliness and a sense of alienation. We are able to feel compassion toward them rather than disrespect, contempt, and rejection. So sun meditation opens the door to a whole different way of loving ourselves and respecting ourselves, as well as a whole different way of loving and respecting other people and other living beings around us. And it allows us to escape the competitive mode, the competitive mindset that many of us feel ourselves to be trapped in, this incessant need to prove how special and unique and outstanding that we are. This is no easy task, because every single one of us, I believe, who was born in this kind of modern society and culture that so adulates and worships individual achievement and individual uniqueness and this whole idea of being special, we've all been programmed to pursue it, to like it, to respect it. So in practicing sun meditation, we are undertaking the rather large task of eliminating this unhealthy program and replacing it with this practice of a much more healthy teaching. So we must admit that it is difficult, but nonetheless, It is, I believe, the best way to escape the kind of pain and shame and guilt that we feel when we are unable to give ourselves love and affection and respect. So I would like very much to encourage you to undertake this path and escape the trap of always having to try to prove to yourself that you are special. I also was born in that kind of context. For many years and decades, I also felt that I had to prove that to myself. But fortunately, I found that sun meditation could free me from that, and I hope that it frees you too. This brings us to the end of another episode. So once again, I would like to thank all of our viewers for watching today's program, and I will conclude with our traditional Buddhist greeting. May we all attain enlightenment.
아유 일권경하니 불인 지묵성이로다 나 전계 무일자되 상방 태광명예로다 나 이 자리에 모이신 여러분은 종이나 먹으로 되어 있지 않고 표보대 한 글자도 없는데 항상 광명을 놓는 그 경이 무엇인가를 여러분들은 설명을 하지 않아도 잘 아실 것입니다. 열심히 이목구를 해서 건강한 모습, 얼굴에 환히 광명을 놓는 그런 모습으로 다시 만날 것을 기약하면서 법상에서 내려가고자 합니다.